Good evening and welcome to another edition of Sports Hour. I'm Kevin Syracuse alongside Meyer Mikulski, and this week we are joined by Fredonia's Associate Director of Career Development, Chris LaGrow. And guys, how are your brackets doing?
Not so great.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah, I'm in 7th in one and 12th in another, but we'll get to that in a second. So starting things off, the Fredonia Blue Devils baseball team lost each game of each doubleheader this past weekend, losing 2 games to Case Western on Saturday by scores of 19-0 and 5-3, and 2 games to Penn State Barron on Sunday by scores of 2-1 and 11-10. In the last game versus Penn State Barron, the Devils had 13 hits, but also committed 6 errors, which led to 6 unearned runs. Senior pitcher Luke Kazuski is tied for first place amongst SUNYAC pitchers with 3 wins, and is alone in first place in innings pitched with 33, strikeouts with 38, earned run average with 1.64, and complete games with 3. The team is now 9-9 on the year and will travel to Pitt Bradford on Friday for a 3 o'clock first pitch. The women's lacrosse team dropped their first conference game of the season on Saturday in Oswego, losing to the Lakers 23-3. Madeline Haney, Jen Kirshner, and Samantha Spice scored the Fredonia goals while goalkeeper Bridget Carey made 9 saves. It was Haney's team-leading 24th goal of the season, and her 26 points are second on the team behind Allie Kuhn's 35. The women next play tomorrow at Buff State at 4 p.m. And finally, the softball team has not played since their spring break trip to Florida, but they will be returning to action this Saturday for their home opener as they will host Buff State for a doubleheader starting at noon. Also returning to action this Saturday will be the men's and women's track and field teams as they will head to Geneseo for the Geneseo Early Season Invitational. So that's your wrap-up of Fredonia sports. And now, getting back to college basketball, as we are in the prime of March Madness. So, Chris, do you want to explain to us, Chris is a bracketologist, so do you want to explain how you guys picked these teams and how the seedings came about this year?
Sure. About 5 years ago, I took Joe Lunardi's, from ESPN, his bracketology course. It's an online certificate class, and it was a lot of fun. Learned a lot about how this process happens. A committee of athletic directors and college presidents, they get together in Indianapolis about a week before the tournament begins, and they spend that whole week just watching games, seeding teams, selecting teams to be in, eliminating teams, and they build the bracket from the ground up. And you can't have anyone from from a team's conference voting on whether a team from their conference can get in. So for instance, if Ohio State is being considered, they can't. Their athletic director can't be involved in the selections for that. When they're voted on. So it takes a long time, and they usually finish it like right before the tournament begins, before the selections committee, or before the selections are announced.
Yeah, so. And you're telling me that you did the same thing this year, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It was pretty much all day on Sunday.
Yeah, this year we, my son and I worked together on it, and we had to build it there's 2 of us since we didn't have 10 people on the committee, and we tried to figure out what they would do. And when we do that, we try to do the same process they do. We look at all the teams, try to eliminate some. Anyone that we eliminate, we leave for the next seed line and all that, and it's a lot of fun to do. We did pretty well this time. A few teams off by a seed here and there, but on the whole, we did pretty well.
Yeah. Now? How many in your group of people that you made these seedings? What place did you finish in? Yeah,
last year we finished 25th out of about 170 people, so that was pretty good. That was a good finish for us, and we'll find out how we did pretty soon this year. I could tell I was a little more off this year, but not too bad. So,
where do you have UB seated?
I had them 6th. I figured that's what they would be. Yep, that was a good. That was fair for them. It's hard to tell with a mid-major with all those wins, hardly any losses. But they didn't have any big wins. They didn't play a tough schedule every week the way a team like an ACC or Big Ten team did.
Yeah, I had them I thought they could be a 4 or 5 seed, but I'm not as experienced in this field as you are. So I guess it was more wishful thinking. But like you said, I mean, we thought they were big wins early in the year against West Virginia, but West Virginia turned out to be not so good of a team this year.
Right.
And then Syracuse, I mean, that was a quality win, but they weren't as good as we thought either. So
Right.
I mean, 32-3 or 31-3 going into the tournament. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great, but at the same time, the strength of schedule, compared to these other teams.
Yeah.
So,
it was a great season for them.
Yeah. Well, hope you guys can win your bracket this year. So, Meyer, what are some of your thoughts from this past weekend's games?
So the first game I want to go over from the first weekend of the tournament was when number 13 UC Irvine upset number 4 Kansas State in the round of 64. The Anteaters were led by guards Max Hazard and Evan Leonard, who each scored 19 points respectively, while Kansas State guard Kamal Stokes led Kansas State in a losing effort with 18 points. So what do you guys think about that game?
I picked UC Irvine. Once I heard that Dean Wade was out, I just had a feeling that Kansas State wouldn't have what it takes to take down UC Irvine. I think, this kind of goes back to the UB thing that UC Irvine's a 13 seed, but they're better than most people would think for being a 13 seed because of the strength of schedule.
I picked UC Irvine too. It was the same reason. I thought that without Wade, Kansas State would struggle. So that was and that's the biggest upset so far, right?
Yeah, one of them.
So far.
Yeah.
The next game featured number 6 Maryland and number 11 Belmont, in which number 6 Maryland defeated number 11 Belmont. The Terrapins were led by freshman big man and former McDonald's All-American Jalen Smith, who recorded a double-double, 19 points and 12 rebounds, plus a poster, while Belmont senior and possible second-round pick Dylan Windler exploded for 35 points in a losing effort, which was a great way to end his college career, shooting 7 for 14 from three-point range. So what do you think about the Maryland victory over Belmont?
I think it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, Belmont was probably overlooked, came from a small conference. They were the 11th seed. But, again, they played tough. And, I mean, the score says it. I mean, to only lose by 2, that's great.
Belmont was one of the last teams to get in, and it was a shame that they got beat so early. With the mid majors don't get many chances at the big conference teams, and I was pulling for them to get past Maryland, but Maryland's a tough team. Not surprised they pulled it out.
Yeah, and then speaking of upsets, Meyer, the next one, Liberty over Mississippi State, right?
The Flames won their first ever NCAA tournament game on Friday when they upset the Mississippi State Bulldogs by a go-ahead basket by Lavelle Cabell, who scored 18 points. The Flames were led by junior guard Caleb Holmesley, who scored 30 points on an efficient 10 of 16 shooting, making almost half his three-point attempts. As for Mississippi State, it was a disappointing way to end their season, but they were led by senior guard Quindary Weatherspoon, who scored 27 points on 50% shooting from the field.
And then next we have Kentucky and Wofford. And Wofford, another team that looked like they could have been a Cinderella team this year, but in the end, they just didn't have what it took. And I think Fletcher McGee going, I believe, over 12 from behind the arc. And that was the difference in the game.
Yeah, he was held to just 8 points.
Yeah. And I got to be honest, I didn't even hear of this guy before. And then I find out that he's now the all-time leading three-point shooter in NCAA history. And, again, Wofford's a small school. You don't hear a lot about him. You don't hear a lot about Fletcher McGee. And it would have been a cool story to see him go far.
The only way these mid-major schools really get that exposure is through the NCAA tournament, which is unfortunate for them.
Yeah. All right, so next, Chris, did you have anything to add about Fletcher McGee and Wofford?
Just that it was, again, a shame when the mid-major came close and couldn't quite pull it out. A shame that McGee had to end his career that way. That was very sad. But I think Kentucky's going to need that P.J. Washington back if they want to keep moving on.
Yeah, and they said he was supposed to be out, but Meyer, you said
he's questionable.
Now he's questionable. Okay, yeah. So that would be key for Kentucky if they could get Washington back. So then next we had Tennessee and Iowa, and
Yeah,
it started out as not too good of a game, and it turned out to be a great game.
Yeah. So after blowing a huge lead in the second half, Tennessee still managed to hold on in overtime and are back in the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2014. The Volunteers were led by their star forwards and potential first-round picks Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield, who each scored 19 points apiece. As for the Hawkeyes, they were led by junior guard Jordan Bohannon, who scored 18 points. So what do you have anything more to say about that?
Well, I saw them play Colgate on Friday down in Columbus, and that was a crazy game. I mean, Colgate hung in there for about 3/4 of that game, and Tennessee poured it on at the end. So I guess they can kick it into gear when they have to, but boy, letting Iowa back in, that was they should not have done that.
Yeah, I agree.
Makes me worried.
They can't make it a habit, or else they're gonna be bounced in the tournament.
Nope.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was a great comeback for Iowa. It shows how much of a blue-collar team they are, and that gritty mentality. But at the same time, if I'm Tennessee, I'm worried of that. Giving up a 25-point lead in the second half, and now in the Sweet 16, that's something that they got to work on as we move forward here. And speaking of moving forward, we're going to a commercial break. We're going to talk some more college basketball in just a couple minutes.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
And welcome back. So before we get into the current bracket and our predictions for this week's games, two games that we need to talk about are the Duke and UCF game, and of course, for our local fans here, the UB Texas Tech game. So first of all, Chris and Meyer, with this Duke game, I'm still in shock that shot didn't go in.
Yeah, they got away with one.
It was a dogfight throughout that whole game, though.
Yeah, it was. I mean, back and forth the whole game, and again, a lower seeded team. UCF was a 9 seed against Duke, who is number 1, and obviously one of the best teams in the country with Zion and R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, Trey Jones, and they played as well as they could have.
Yep, and falling just short like that. They beat a really good team when they beat VCU the couple days before that. VCU had won, I forget how many, like 12 games in a row going into that game, or other than their tournament. And I was actually a little surprised they got by VCU, but boy, to take Duke down to the wire and they have 2 shots at the end and neither of them went in.
Tip.
A layup and a tip in that literally was that close from going in and defeating Duke. And I mean, there's a lot of luck involved. And I mean, last year with that shot with Grayson Allen, that Grayson Allen shot rolled in and out. I think that was against Kentucky, right?
I don't think so. I forget who they played last year.
I can't remember who, but Grayson Allen had that shot and literally just rolled in and out. This year, it rolls in and out, but it's in Duke's favor.
Yep.
And, you know, just hats off to Central Florida on a great year. And,
yeah.
And real quick, Taco Fall, I mean, I think he's the only guy that can make Zion look small.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, the game pretty much came down to foul trouble. And it showed at the end when Taco Fall fouled Zion as he attempted a layup over him. And that pretty much
Fall
determined the game.
fouled out.
Yeah.
So yeah, Duke moves on, barely, but they're in the Sweet 16, and I think 99% of America is thankful because their brackets are not any more messed up than they already were.
And you can't forget, R.J. Barrett did make the go-ahead basket for Duke to win that game.
Yeah, and I mean, I picked Duke right along. I'm in 2 different brackets, and I have Duke winning it all in both because I think just with Zion, R.J. Barrett, and then guys like Cam Reddish and Trey Jones, I mean, I don't know if there's a better big 3 in college basketball.
In a sense, that Duke team reminds me of the 2009-10 Kentucky Wildcats because if they have a game where they can't hit a 3, they're in trouble. And that's how Kentucky ended up losing to West Virginia that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so this UB game, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Chris?
You know, had UB been in any of the other brackets, any other region, I might have given them a chance in that 6-3 game. But boy, Texas Tech, their defense, they shut everybody down. You just can't score on them. And even a high-scoring team like UB couldn't keep up. It was, you know, that's just too good a team right there.
And they're not used to that kind of competition on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
It started off really slow for UB, and then they picked it up to the point where they took the lead with, I believe, 3 minutes left in the first half. They were up 26-25, I believe. And I was thinking, all right, you know, UB found their groove. They're going to get back to UB basketball. And then Texas Tech just took over. I think they went on like a 15-1 run or something like that. Or no, it was more than that because UB went from like 3 minutes left in the first half to like 4 minutes into the second half. So like in real time, it was like 50 minutes with halftime without getting a field goal.
Oh.
And they just went cold, ice cold. And I mean, like you said, Texas Tech, they have one heck of a defense. And it was they were the 3rd ranked defense in the country, and UB was the 4th ranked offense. But defense, like the saying says, defense wins championships.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, but hats off to UB as well for, I mean, still, they lost, but what a year they had. You know, 32-4 they finished. They won the MAC regular season title, the MAC tournament title.
Yep.
They finished the final AP poll rankings came out. They were 15th in the whole country. And not only this year, this only helps for years to come too, as they have a strong recruiting class coming in next year, and it's just, you know, going to keep building and building. And I think Nate Oates, he also signed that extension. He's going to be there till 2024. So I think we're in for many good years of UB basketball. So taking a look at what we have now in the bracket, in the East, we have Duke facing off against Virginia Tech on Friday, LSU against Michigan State on Friday, Gonzaga against Florida State on Thursday, Texas Tech and Michigan on Thursday, and those past 2 games are in the West. In the South, we have Virginia and Oregon. They are playing Thursday, as is Purdue and Tennessee. And then on Friday, we have North Carolina and Auburn, and Houston and Kentucky. So what are your predictions for this next round of games.
So my prediction for Duke, Virginia is going to be Duke, even though last time they faced, Virginia Tech actually defeated them, but that was without Zion Williamson. But I believe since they're at full capacity now, I feel they'll be able to pull this one out. So what do you guys think?
I think Duke can too.
Yeah, I'd take Duke. Virginia Tech has 2 great scorers. Blackshear and Robinson are both really good.
And they have Alexander Walker.
Yeah, yep. But Duke's just got too much, I think, for them.
Yeah. All right. Next game, Meyer.
Next game will feature Michigan State and LSU, and I predict Michigan State will pull this one out due to their experience and their guard play. So what do you guys think?
I'm taking Michigan State too.
I'm taking them too. I've been waiting for LSU to get beat without their head coach, and they haven't yet. They're a resilient team and talented, but boy, Michigan State's balanced. They're really good.
Cassius Winston is one heck of a guard too.
Yeah, that's right.
And LSU has a great guard in their own right, Tremont Waters.
Yeah, and he came up huge the other night too. And as we're approaching the end of the segment, we'll just if you want to list the games, and we'll give you our predictions. So let's start Gonzaga, Florida State. I'm going to take Gonzaga here.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'll take the Bulldogs. That's a tough one, though.
Yeah.
Michigan State's, Florida State's really good, but I'm taking Gonzaga.
They have balanced scoring as well.
Yep.
Which is going to, that's key for a team as we near the stretch. So Texas Tech, Michigan.
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech.
I had Michigan in one of my brackets, but I'm going to go against that, and I'm really liking the way Texas Tech is playing, and it'll make me feel better if they can beat up on another team too. So Virginia, Oregon. This is interesting because Virginia is a 1 seed. They've been great all year, but we know their struggles in March Madness, and Oregon has all this momentum right now going back into the Pac-12 tournament. So I think this is the year Virginia can do it. What do you guys think?
I think Virginia will handle their business as they're supposed to, but this does have potential to become an upset.
Yeah, Oregon's got a lot of momentum, but I picked Virginia to win it all, and I think they'll win this game.
All right, so Purdue, Tennessee. This is should be another great game. Tennessee's a 2 seed, Purdue's a 3. This is hard because Tennessee, gave up that big lead. They were good enough to be able to finish it off, but I think I'm still going to take Tennessee here.
Yeah, I'm going with the Volunteers as well.
I'm taking Purdue in this one. I did not like what I saw from Tennessee blowing that 25-point lead, and I'm going to go with Purdue in this game.
And Purdue, they do have 6-foot guard Carson Edwards, who scored 42 points against the defending champions.
Most since Gary McNamara.
Yep,
from Syracuse.
Oh, I missed those days.
And last 2, North Carolina, Auburn. I'm taking the Tar Heels. I think they're one of the best teams left in the tournament. What about you guys?
Same.
Yeah, same. Tar Heels.
All right, and then finally, Houston, Kentucky. Houston, they were in my Final Four from the start. I'm sticking with them because I think they have a really nice team.
I'm going to take Kentucky in this game, especially if P.J. Washington's back.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Wildcats because Coach Cal, I feel like he'll be able to coach these young guys to victory.
All right, so Thursday and Friday are the big games, and then we'll have the results for you next Tuesday. So now it's really getting to crunch time. And Chris, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And we'll be back in a couple minutes. Anthony's going to come on, and we're going to talk some NBA.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the creative galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
All right, welcome back, and we're going to talk some NBA now. We're joined by Anthony Flores. Anthony, how you doing?
Doing phenomenal. I'm kind of tired, like really tired, but you know, we can get through the show today.
Well, this segment will wake you right up.
I hope so.
All right, so taking a look at the current standings, starting off in the Eastern Conference, the Bucks are in first with a 55-19 record. Great year for them. Raptors are in second, 51-23, followed by the 76ers, 47-27, Pacers, 45-29. And then the Celtics, Pistons, Nets, and Heat round out the top 8. And just a half game out of 8th place is the Orlando Magic. And then a game and a half, or 2 games, behind Miami is the Hornets. So it's, after that it's the Wizards, who are back by about 7 games. So it's pretty much going to come down to, you know, the Pistons, the Nets, the Heat, the Magic, and the Hornets.
As a Nets fan, I'm just hoping out they grind the season hard. And, you know, D'Angelo Russell has been playing as his all-star form, so I do see the Nets keeping this position in the playoffs. I just got to worry about the Magic and the Heat, because honestly, those two teams are fighting for the 8th seed. But, you know, I'm also hoping Detroit takes some L's the next couple weeks, because I'm trying to see, I want to see the Nets, you know, maybe take that 6th seed, or in the East, maybe even 5th if they could.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be interesting because this is Wade's last year, so will he?
I want to see him in the playoffs, but you know, they're probably gonna get knocked out even in the first round if he did make it. But you know, it'd be nice to see good old Wade finish out on top in the playoffs.
And then the Hornets. I mean, that shot from Jeremy Lamb, literally a game-winning half-court heave the other night against Toronto. Mm-hmm. That could have saved their season.
And the Hornets right now are playing very good, even though like it's pretty much not going to happen for them to make the playoffs. They'll most likely, you know, finish the season strong with some good game, because they blew out the Celtics, and then they had a good, you know, game winner against the Raptors, and that's just really a good show for them to end their season. Even though they're not going to make the playoffs, it's something to build for positivity at the end of the season.
Yeah. All right, so switching over to the West, we have the Warriors in first, 50-23, followed by the Nuggets, the Rockets, and the Trailblazers, and all those teams have clinched a playoff position. Mm-hmm. And in the East, Milwaukee, Toronto, Philadelphia, and Indiana have all clinched as well. So in the West, once again, Golden State, Denver, Houston, Portland, and Nurkic. What a gruesome injury last night. Prayers for him. Hope
right
he's okay.
there, that Basically, it's going to show that the Portland Trailblazers are not going to make it past the second round if they do make it out the first round. It sucks really to see because Dame Lillard is a phenomenal player, and that Portland team just looks strong year in and year out, but they just always get knocked down in the playoffs, which is just extremely sad.
And Nurkic was putting up career bests this year, too.
And he was a crucial piece of that offense and that whole core of between him, McCollum, and Damian Lillard. And with that injury, like I said, they're just not going to make it far in the playoffs. I mean, Enes Kanter can step in, but I doubt Enes Kanter can, put up the same things that Nurkic can do. It's a really gruesome injury, and he had a great game that game too. And, they came out to win over the Nets, unfortunately. But I pray for Nurkic to get some good rest, to heal, and then to come back strong next season.
And then after Portland, in 5th place, we have Utah, followed by the Clippers, Spurs, and Thunder. And the Thunder, they've been falling off as of late. But they have a 6.5 game lead over Sacramento. So it looks like they should be okay. It's just going to be seeding.
It's about 10 or 9 games, depending on the team left. But right here, obviously, I don't see Sacramento taking the A seed. And right now, the seeds 5 through 8 are really up for grabs right there in the West. Their teams are really like about 1 to 2, maybe even 3 games behind from one another. And right now, I'm very disappointed in the Thunder because I thought PG was my MVP, and he still is a great player in my mind, but that team has slipped of recent weeks, and they went from the 3rd seed down to the 4th and then back down to the 8th, which is just disgusting to see for the Thunder.
And even worse, LeBron and the Lakers are officially eliminated. LeBron is not in the playoffs for the first time since 2004 and 2005. So with that, that will conclude the NBA segment, and Joe will be joining us next to talk about the NHL as we gear up for those playoffs as well.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the creative galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
We are now joined by Joe Sierra, our hockey analyst, and we're going to talk some NHL. So taking a look at the NHL standings now. In the Metropolitan Division in the East, Washington is in first with 96 points, followed by the Islanders with 95 and Pittsburgh with 95. And then in the Atlantic, Tampa Bay, 122 points, 59, 14, and 4.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's right. Followed by Boston with 101 points, and then Toronto with 96. And the two wildcard teams are Carolina and Montreal. Should be Buffalo, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Carolina has 91 points. Montreal is 88. And then in the West, Winnipeg, Nashville, and St. Louis are leading the Central Division. And then in the Pacific, it goes Calgary, San Jose, and Vegas. Calgary with 101 points, most in the West. They're having a great year. And then the wild card is Dallas and Colorado. Dallas has 84 points. Colorado has 81, and then Arizona and Minnesota are right behind them with 79. And Chicago has 76 and Edmonton 74, so pretty tight there in the West. And also, I forgot to mention the East. Right behind Montreal with 86 points is Columbus, followed by Philadelphia with 80. So it's pretty tight in both conferences, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Tampa, they're just running away with the East. I'm pretty sure they already clinched the East. Yeah. And but the Western conferences, I like to see. It's going pretty good there. Winnipeg, after the acquisition of Kevin Hayes, I think they're in a really solid position to make a cup run. And
Nashville with Wayne Simmons and the guy that they got from the Kevin Hayes, Fiala.
Yeah, that's right. And so, I mean, the top teams are looking pretty solid.
It was from the Minnesota trade. But yeah, they're looking solid.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the playoffs to come up, but I'm still really disappointed in the Sabres season. Yeah,
we'll get to that in a sec. So real quick, Rangers and Bruins tomorrow night. Who do you have in that game?
I'm going to go with the Rangers. I don't think they're in a playoff spot, are they?
No, they're not having too good of a year.
Yeah, but I'm not. I am a little biased.
Actually, the tie with the Sabres was 71.
I am a little biased. I've never been a Boston fan, and so I'm always going to root against them. And so
I got the Bruins in that one. They have a really good team this year. The Wild and Vegas Friday night.
Oh, I got to go with Vegas on there. Vegas is still a solid team. A lot of people thought they would fall off, but they're still in a playoff spot. So I'm going to go with Vegas there.
I'm going to go Minnesota because they're fighting for that wild card spot. And, it's really tight in the West. And they know that it's go time. 7 games left. They need every win they can get.
Yeah, you're right.
I think they can pull it off. So now, Sabres, I mean, it seems like it gets worse and worse from every week that we meet.
It's kind of disgusting to watch. I don't really watch the games anymore because it's kind of like you can predict the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, last I checked, they're down 2-0 to Ottawa, who is in last place in the Eastern Conference.
It's not cool. Cool.
They have 71 points, so they're 17 points out of a wild card, and they haven't won back-to-back games since mid-December. They are about to lose their 14th straight road game, and that would be the longest NHL streak in the last 25 years. And they literally just went from first place in the NHL to, let me check real quick.
Almost the worst.
Yeah, they're literally almost the worst. They are currently 26 out of 31 teams. And a couple months ago, like I said, they were literally in first place. So that 10-game win streak, I hate to say it, but it seems like it was a fluke. And, I mean...
Well, we started off hot, and, things did look bright.
Yeah.
We looked like a solid team, but, the inexperience showed, I guess. And, with the defense slacking, you can't really do much about it. And, you leave your goaltender out to dry, and that's how you lose games.
Yeah, and a couple tweets from Jerry Sullivan that really caught my eye. Okay, here it is. The Sabres' last road win was January 29th in Columbus, so if they lose in Ottawa tonight, they will become the first NHL team in 25 years to lose 13 straight on the road and will go 2 full months without a road win. And that's just insane. And the other one is the Sabres are 29-7 since the end of the 10-game winning streak. Yeesh. That's a 57-point pace over a full season. And then he said, tell me how Housley keeps his job. So real quick with our last couple minutes, I know I said a couple weeks ago that, they should give Housley another year because the team was improving since last year. But now, I mean, it's to the point where we're literally at the same point in the season this year as we were last year. Guys aren't trying. Guys aren't caring. They're not hustling. The Sabres are losing games that they should be winning. They're losing down the stretch. they're falling off at the worst time possible. And I know a lot of that's on the team, but a lot of that's on the coach too. And if it's literally the same thing in back-to-back years, I mean, I almost think it's time for a change.
I think, in my opinion, they're going to give him one last chance.
I think so too. I mean,
but if things don't go well next season, then he's going to get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't think of his name. Jason Botterill said that his job is safe.
I think he's doing fine. Yeah. I think Botterill's doing fine, but I think Housley's got to go.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Housley. They're already eliminated from the playoffs for the 8th straight year, so hopefully next year. And thanks for joining us, Joe. Crescenzo will be on next. We're going to talk some MLB.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the creative galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
We are now joined by Crescenzo Fano for our MLB segment. And Crescenzo, I am so happy. 2 days away from opening day.
Well, technically, it already started in Japan. So, I mean, with Seattle and Oakland, and that was really good. I mean, speaking, I think the highlight though everyone is talking about is Ichiro retiring, a legend in the sport.
That was so much of a storyline.
Yeah.
People don't even know who won the 2 games.
No, I think it was Seattle, but Seattle played really good. But like Ichiro's numbers, I mean, just in the U.S. alone, he has almost 3,100 hits, a 311 batting average in how many years? 17, 18 years? Something like that. 10-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, and MVP in his first season, which is phenomenal. The first 10 seasons were 200 hits that he accumulated, and 18 of those seasons, he played at least 136 games. 13 of the seasons, he played at least 150 of those games. So, like, it's remarkable, this guy. And then in Japan, he has a little over 1,200 hits and then 353 batting average and 7 Gold Gloves.
Yeah.
Just saying how good this guy was.
It's incredible. I mean, to have over 4,000 hits in your career and to be playing at a high level still into your age 40 season.
Yeah.
Even he's 45 now.
Right.
It's like I said, it's incredible. It's 16 years in the big leagues, and a few in Japan, and I thought that was a really nice send off for Ichiro.
Yeah. I did not expect it. I thought he was going to continue playing.
Yeah. So he came back for those 2 games. Like we said, they were in Japan, in his hometown.
Yeah.
And the crowd was great. The send off was great, and like he said, it was a perfect way to end his career.
Right.
I still want to see him play because I think he's still
he's 45. I mean, that's incredible. And then speaking of opening day rosters, Melky Cabrera a real veteran. Actually made the squad for Pittsburgh Pirates, which I'm a little bit surprised of. But their outfield is really desperate for someone, for just a backup and name. He has 13 hits, 3 doubles in the spring. And then the real story is Francisco Liriano making a comeback. And now he's going to be in a Pittsburgh uniform again. And he had huge success in Pittsburgh. In 2013, which was his best year by far, he had a 3.02 ERA. And then in 2014 and 15, he had 3.38. I mean, maybe he'll get things back on track in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I really like both those moves. I'm a Pirates fan myself. I mean, obviously Yankees first, but Indians and Pirates tied for second or third, give or take.
Seems to interest you.
Yeah. Actually, I wore my Pirates hat today. But, yeah, I really like those moves because right now the outfield is Corey Dickerson in left, Starling Marte in center, and Gregory Polanco in right. And they got Lonnie Chisenhall from the Indians as a nice backup outfielder. But, you know, anytime you can add depth and experience and a little bit of power with Melky, I mean, that's a great move. So now they have 5 really good outfielders. And same thing with Liriano. I mean, the Pirates secretly have one of the best rotations in the game, I'd say.
Would you? I mean, they have Archer. I feel Chris Archer is very overrated. I mean, he's always had like a mid-3 at best ERA, and in big games,
he's gonna have a bounce back here this year.
I don't know, man. I don't see it. I think all he does is he wants to throw heat, and he doesn't really locate a lot. I think he's a little bit overrated, and I think the Pirates, I think they paid the price by taking a chance on him. And then what really doesn't make sense is that they let Garrett Cole go, but they won't. They'll trade for Chris Archer. That makes 0 sense. So
don't forget Archer had really good numbers in Tampa. He didn't have all the wins because Tampa wasn't a great team around him.
But not at the end. At the end, it was very sloppy with Tampa. He was getting injured. He wasn't doing well.
I mean, that's what kind of led to the trade, and hopefully he can resurrect his career.
And speaking of a career, Jason Hamill, he was supposed to be, from what I heard, he was supposed to be on the opening day roster for the Texas Rangers. Instead, he retired right after spring training because he didn't want to. I guess he didn't want to play for the Texas Rangers because that's how bad.
Davis?
I guess. I mean, but it's a really good career for Jason Hamill. I mean, with the Cubs for many years.
He's another underrated pitcher.
He was a little bit underrated, but it goes back to how long can you pitch for, and I guess he felt like the time was right, and I guess that was it.
And there were 5 extensions that we can talk about real quick.
Yeah.
Justin Verlander with the Astros, Blake Snell with the Rays.
That's a good deal.
Alex Bregman with the Astros. And then recently, today, Jacob deGrom with the Mets.
Yes.
And why am I blanking on this last one? There's one more.
Was there?
Kyle Hendricks with the Cubs.
Yes,
that was today as well. So 5 big extensions, too.
Yeah.
And
Justin Verlander's was ridiculous.
I like them all, I think, yeah.
2 years, $66 million. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It goes back to what I've been saying the last few weeks. I love all the deals, baseball-wise, money-wise.
Yeah.
Can't stand it. So, 2 days, and we will have baseball again. So thanks for joining us, Crescenzo. Aaron is on next for some football.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the creative galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Each one of our journeys keeps us. Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
We'll never get older. Each one Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Welcome back to our final segment as we're joined by Aaron Sember. And Aaron, the biggest news, I'm happy as a Bills fan, Gronk is done.
Yep, after 9 seasons with the New England Patriots, Gronk, after having a very injury-prone career, has called it quits, I guess.
But even though I don't like him or the Patriots, he did have one of the best ever.
In the span.
As a tight end, yeah.
In the 9-year span, he had a great career.
And what were his stats? He had like 79
touchdowns, a little over 7,800 yards, 12 touchdowns in the playoffs. And people were saying best tight end ever. I mean, I don't think that's true. Yeah, because it's just like, oh, what? Tony Gonzalez never played in the NFL?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess not.
Yeah.
But that just shows sometimes injuries can really plague a great career. And
yeah, he's only 30, too.
Yeah, Gronk is a great example of that.
And interesting note, Bills head coach Sean McDermott said today at the owners' meetings, said he wouldn't be surprised if Gronk comes back. And I think I heard that from someone else, too. So they're saying
a lot
he
of people
could come
are
back
saying that.
Later in the season for like another playoff run just to like preserve his body. Mm-hmm. And then, that would be a New England thing to do. Just when we think Gronk's done, he comes back.
Surprise!
Speaking of the Bills, not too big of a signing, but one that I really like. Bills brought back E.J. Gaines, a cornerback. He was with Cleveland last year. He was with the Bills in 2017. He played in 11 games, and the Bills were 8-3 in games that he played. Mm-hmm. He had, I believe, 57 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, and an interception. And I think now with, obviously, Tre'Davious White's a starter, and then now there's a lot of competition for that second spot with E.J. Gaines, Kevin Johnson, who they just signed from Houston, and Levi Wallace, who was an undrafted rookie last year, but he played really well. And then there's Taron Johnson, too, the slot corner. So I really like what the Bills have done with their secondary. And then also they signed Maurice Alexander, the backup safety from Seattle, for some more depth. So the Bills continue to make some nice additions to their team. Not the biggest names, but a lot of solid
very underrated,
pickups. Yeah.
Very underrated guys.
Guys that fit in well with the culture here, and guys that are going to help Josh Allen continue to grow. And, all right, so now that, the first couple big waves of free agency are in the books, we have some more up-to-date mock drafts. Mm-hmm. So what do you think for these mock drafts here?
Like I said last show, I really don't believe that Kyler Murray should go first. Like he's a very good talent, but like I said, this draft is stacked with defensive prospects, and how can you just give up on that? Or just like these guys are all first round potential or like first pick potential. Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams, Montez Sweat running that 4.41.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the Bills, Josh Allen.
Yeah, they're freaks.
Yeah.
You can't like miss that opportunity. And obviously like the quarterbacks, there's very few who are good, unlike last year where they had a lot more in the first round, but obviously I don't know what the Cardinals are going to do with like Rosen and all that, but whatever they do with that first pick, if they take Murray, I don't think it's going to be the best choice, but it will help their team still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cliff Kingsbury's always loved Murray. And I heard rumors that Rosen is one of those guys who doesn't really put in the work. He leaves, shows up kind of late, leaves early, doesn't study as hard as he should. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go Murray here. But like you said, there's so many defensive prospects. I mean, it's hard to pass up on these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Miller, taking a look at the top 10 here, and then we can just kind of dissect that. He has Kyler going number 1 to Arizona, followed by Nick Bosa to San Fran. The Jets taking Josh Allen at 3. The Raiders taking linebacker Devin White at 4. And I think that's pretty accurate as they've loaded up on offense. In free agency, Tampa at 5, he has them taking Quinnen Williams. The Giants are taking Dwayne Haskins at 6. Jacksonville,
I think they
Juwan
really.
Taylor
I think the Giants really need a quarterback at this point.
Yeah.
It's just Eli needs to go. I think Eli needed to go a couple years ago, and I still stand true to that statement.
I think the best case scenario is you draft Dwayne Haskins or Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, any of these guys, whoever they like. They definitely need a quarterback. So you draft them this year, let them sit behind Eli, and then cut ties with Eli next year.
Yeah.
And then let Haskins or Murray or whoever it is take over next year. 7, Jacksonville, he has them taking Juwan Taylor. At 8, Detroit, Rashawn Gary, the edge rusher from Michigan. So he thinks he's staying close to home. Bills taking Jonah Williams at 9. And I think if I'm Brandon Beane, I think I'm doing that as well because, I mean, now there are still holes on the roster, but the main priority of the offseason was protecting Josh Allen.
Yeah, Juwan Taylor, perfect example.
Yeah, so Juwan Taylor, in this mock, he has, like I said, Juwan Taylor going to Jacksonville. But I think, either him or Jonah Williams, if they're there, you got to take them because – yeah, the Bills have made some nice pickups in free agency on the line.
Yeah, but like you always say, it always starts up front with those big boys.
Yeah, it starts up front, and then, they allow everything to happen. If they don't protect Josh Allen, you can't get the wide receiver the ball. So, like, DK Metcalf, I would love to have him, but what good is it if we can't get him the ball?
Yeah, of course, and if the offensive line can't hold up, then the defense always going to be out there getting exhausted.
Yeah. And then at 10, Matt Miller has the Broncos taking Drew Lock. I think that's another pretty good move. I mean, they have Flacco now, but
you think I think
I don't know if he's
going to
last.
I think
too
it's going to be a
long,
similar situation with if the Giants do Eli and Haskins like that.
Like
combo,
let him sit behind Flacco.
Like Flacco for a year and then cut ties with him and all that. So
yeah, and another interesting thing, real quick, Miami. They're picking kind of mid-round here. But they signed Ryan Fitzpatrick to a 2-year deal. So there's rumors that they might just let Fitzpatrick ride out the season as a starter and kind of, tank this year.
3-0
and then they can get the top quarterback in the draft next year.
They start the first 3 weeks 3-0, and then it all goes downhill from there.
So they're picking 13th. So Miller hasn't taken Montez Sweat, the edge rusher you were talking about. But I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll take a quarterback, maybe they won't. But that's something remain to be seen. So we're about exactly a month from the NFL draft. So thank you for tuning in for another week of Sports Hour, and we'll be back next week, next Tuesday, same time, same place. So tune in again.